Welcome everybody to today's webinar, the Latino Chamber of Commerce of Minnesota. We are very happy to have all of you in our webinar, and we want to welcome you, and we want to remind you that this is just one of several webinars. So we put together a more like a series of webinars, and all are referring to commercial real estate. Today's webinar is more like the basic, and we're calling it Principles of Commercial Real Estate, which is more kind of the one-on-one version of real estate. We're going to be just going through the basics so we all can understand better some of the vocabulary used and some of the programs that are available. I want to also remind you that there's going to be a Spanish version of this same webinar this coming Thursday, May 19th. It will be also at 2 p.m. If you or you know of anybody that will be interested in going through the Spanish version of this webinar, please let them know, and please join us too. This will be completely in Spanish this coming Thursday. And as I told you, this is a part of a series. So just to give you a really quick idea of when the next ones are coming, we have one in August 9th, and the topic for that will be purchase, rent, or lease of commercial real estate. And we're going to also talk about purchasing businesses that have real estate with their business. And that will be on August 9th. The Spanish version of that one will be on August 11th. The third one that we have is going to be in November, and that will touch the topics of sale and investment of real commercial real estate, and we will be touching the national and international areas of those sales. The Spanish version of that webinar is going to happen on November 17th. It's basically the same week. We're doing this. Tuesday will be the English version, and Thursday is going to be the Spanish version of it. All right. How is this? I'm sure that most of us are very familiar with how the Zoom is working by now. But just to let you know that that at the bottom of your screen there is this chat icon that you can access, so you can ask any questions. The presenter is asking to have the questions at the end. We're probably going to have 10-15 minutes for questions at the end of the webinar, and then you can just type it in your chat, and our presenter is going to address those by then. The other thing that I need to talk is about, let's see, we already talked about the webinars. We talked about the format. Obviously, this is a Zoom. And well, now I'm going to have to present you with the person that is going to take over and go through the presentation. This presentation, this webinar is brought to you by the NAREP, which is the National Hispanic Real Estate Professionals of the Twin Cities. There's a chapter in the Twin Cities. So they are the sponsors of this event. Obviously, they joined forces with the Latino Chamber of Commerce, and we were able to find the presenter today. The presenter, his name is Luis Olvera. He's a CPA and an MBA from the University of Minnesota. And I'm just going to read really quick a little bit of his qualifications. He's a highly motivated professional with over 18 years of experience in international business. He's going through contracts, negotiations, development of subsidiaries, exports, imports, also performing interpreting, translating at the legal, medical, and school arenas. In addition, he's a Minnesota residential and commercial real estate agent, active for over 15 years. He's also the Director of Membership and Co-Director of Education at the National Hispanic Real Estate Professionals Twin Cities chapter. He's also a member of the Minnesota Commercial Real Estate Women. And with that, I'm gonna let Luis to take over and go through his presentation. Luis, welcome. Thank you for your time, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Fabio. It's a pleasure for me to be able to share a little bit about my experiences and a little theory and knowledge of commercial real estate in regards to the state of Minnesota. Let me start with the basics, and let me give you guys and girls a little bit of housekeeping from my side. The brain likes histories, stories, and analogies. The brain doesn't like theories. So if I throw you E equals MC2, you're going to say, what the heck is this guy talking about? But if I tell you that we are going to cook or bake, the brain is going to like that. So we're going to make some analogies and some stories about real estate in the context of cooking and baking. Baking is a way to do things in the kitchen, but it's very strict. It has rules and regulations, and you have to follow them to the T. That is residential real estate. And commercial is cooking, is everything goes, you put it in the skillet, and there you go. So with that in mind, let me tell you that we are going to start our magical mystery tour defining what is a supermarket or real estate. A real estate, and please do not write. This is going to be recorded. I will be more than happy to share the recording with you. So relax, sit down, watch, see, and learn. Real estate, by definition, is any kind of land with the buildings, crops, minerals, or water. Very important, it does not move. Everything that you can touch, smell, and see in terms of construction is real estate. When we talk about crops, imagine CBD, which is marijuana without the fun. Imagine that you have underneath your house water or minerals, so you can start digging, and if you find minerals, it's all yours. In the strict definition of real estate, when you have a parcel or land, piece of land, is from there to the center of the earth. So everything that you guys find in between is yours by definition, okay? So that is basically the broad definition of real estate. So now continue with our presentation. Let's talk about the manager of the supermarket, who is the real estate agent. Real estate agent is any person that study 90 hours and present the national and the state exam. Every state has their own rules and regulations for real estate, their own paperwork. You present the exam, you pass, and then you got a license. That license, you present it to your broker, call it the Big Blue, the Big Red, Keller Williams, Remax, XP, whatever, and he is the one that has your license. And then you are able to work, and you can do professional activities in residential and commercial. You don't need a special permit for commercial. You just have to be knowledgeable of what you are doing, okay? Okay, let's take a look from 1795 to 2020, what has been the behavior of real estate in the United States. And as you can see, it is very, very predictable, ups and downs and ups and downs and ups and downs, except when you start to talk about 2020, 2019, a lot of situations happen and are still happening, and nobody has the magic ball to predict how it's going to be real estate in the next year. I was reading this morning that the prices of the houses in average, when the realtor, residential realtor makes the offer, it's 50, 40,000 above price or selling price. So it's still crazy. However, if you want to take a look at Fannie Mae forecast, and please don't hang the or don't kill the messenger, they are saying that, guess what? The prices are going to be going down in 22, third quarter, and so on. This is due to inflation and price stabilization. So again, I didn't do it. I'm just telling what is here is Fannie Mae, okay? So let's go a little deeper into the rabbit hole, okay? Let's define the types of real estate. As we were talking before, residential is very strict, very with like baking. You have rules and regulations, and they are very, very, very tight. And the residential real estate encompasses single family homes, triplex, quadruplex, townhomes, condos, etc. Duplexes as well. And commercial, as we said before, is cooking, which means everything else goes. Multifamily, which is 5 units or more. In residential, a quadruplex stops there, the residential. In commercial is 5, 6, 7, 20, 200, etc. Office buildings, malls, hospital, clinics, warehouses, auto dealerships, cemeteries, gymnasiums, schools, and everything else that you can imagine that is not single family homes, etc. Okay, guys? So here are some examples. Obviously, the brain loves to have pictures so they can relate. Here is a duplex. The duplexes, by the way, can be side to side or up and down. This is a triplex, side to side. A quadruplex, up and down. Mobile homes. Careful, we have to pay attention, guys. Mobile homes are mobile. And remember the definition, real estate that does not move. So food trucks, mobile homes are considered chattel. That's the technical word. And that is considered personal property. The owner of these guys do not need a realtor to sell or to buy. They can go to the mobile home park and negotiate directly. They do not need a real estate agent. Okay, so be very aware of that because they move. That is the reason why, okay? Continuing, we have the hotels. We're talking commercial, obviously. Restaurants, we're going to go happy hour here after the seminar. Whoever wants to come, you're very well invited. Or if you prefer the beach, it's okay too. We can do this on Saturday. Industrial properties. Let me tell you a little bit about this. Again, we like stories. Amazon, because of the boom of e-commerce due to the COVID, they bought only 400 million square feet last year. So I do not know if that is a number that your brain can have a frame of reference, but imagine your house, which is about 2,000, 2,500, multiply that by 2,000. So it's 2,000 houses. That's what Amazon bought. And because they were not content to do that, guess what they did, guys? They started to buy malls because, as you know, in the COVID, A lot of people were in their houses. They did not want to go outside to buy in the malls, so the malls were going bankrupt. By the way, the Mall of America, it was belly up with $500 million. It was going to go bankrupt, and some investors from Texas saved him. So coming back to center, Amazon bought some malls and they transformed them into multifamilies and assisted living houses. Very interesting move for Amazon. However, everything that goes up goes down. Now people start to go out, people start to go to the mall, and guess what? For the first time in history, Amazon had loss in their P&L last quarter. Surprise. Continuing. A little bit bitter, sweet, bitter sour, whatever you want to call it, bittersweet, is the cemeteries. Cemeteries can be looked also as a business. And thanks to COVID, it has been a boom in this segment of the industry. As you can see in the left is the traditional model. In the right is when you have niches and you incinerate the cadaver. And just another story about this. Many years ago, when I was young, I did one transaction of a cemetery. And let me tell you guys and girls, it's the business of your life. Why? Because it's very quiet. Nobody makes noise in the night. Everybody's very friendly. People go and deposit flowers. And guess what? In the picture of the right, imagine how many rents are you going to have a month? For sure, for the rest of eternity. So it's very lucrative business. The only thing you have to be careful is the incinerator, because they don't want you to put two for the price of one. Okay, so that is cemeteries. Multifamilies is another sector of commercial real estate. And as you probably know, it's been in a boom. Everybody goes to buy multifamilies. Why? Because the inventory of houses has been diminished since 2013, 2012. And the last that I read is that in the state of Minnesota, if there is no one more house in the market tomorrow, by the end of June, there are not going to be more houses in the market. So that is how bad or minuscule is the inventory in the state of Minnesota. And it is, just to give you a comparison, a healthy inventory 6 to 8 months is the minimum healthy inventory. We are having a month, 1.5 inventory of residential, and it is to die, really to die. Reason why they are offering 60, 50,000 overpriced. And guess what? It's cash, no inspection, and forget about the appraisal. So that is a very interesting situation in residential. In commercial, thanks God, we are still not bidding overpriced. And we are negotiating, as we will see in the following graphs. Okay, guys? Malls also is part of the commercial real estate. I commented what our friend Joe Bezos did with some malls, transform them into assisted living, which, by the way, another story about this segment of commercial, very interesting, because pre-COVID, there was more demand for assisted living that buildings were built or available. There were a waiting list of up to a year to get into an assisted living house. And God forbid, by waiting, Joe or Mary probably are going to die before entering to the assisted living. Then COVID came And guess what? The people that were in the assisted living started to die like by the thousands. And obviously there were empty beds, empty rooms. And now is again, very interesting, the demand and the supply. So it is booming again, this market segment. So it's, as we study in the graph, up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay, so very, very interesting, the assisted living sector. Airports, you can buy and sell airports as well. Again, because of the COVID, these guys were basically in bankrupt, but now they are starting to boom again. I will make a summary of the different segments of commercial in a few minutes. Just hold your horses. Okay, let's make a recap. If you want to analyze commercial real estate, let's go back to our analogy in the brain so it can have a frame of reference. Imagine a stick, and the stick is profits. The higher you go, the more profits there are. The lower you go, the less profits or losses you have. So then you open two arms. One arm goes up, meaning the trend goes to the more profits, and you have an arm going down, which means less profit or loss. So what segment do we have in the loss? Well, the hospitality sector. Why? Because of the COVID, people don't like to go out, the mask, the movies start to crowd, the theaters, the gyms, the restaurants, bars, etc. All of these guys were and still are not in the best financial position of their lives. If we put a third arm, which if you will is kind of horizontal, up and down a little bit and a little bit down, we can talk about offices. The offices were basically full pre-COVID. COVID came, people went to their homes, buildings started to be empty. And for instance, the Target Center in downtown Minneapolis was for sale. Target built another gigantic building by Brooklyn Center. And I have some friends that used to work there, and guess what? It was up to the 3 months ago, 20% occupied. So imagine the mortgage that the Target has to pay and having occupation or occupied of 20%. Fortunately, it's, as I said, it's up and down and up and down. Why? Because federal employees are coming back to work. Some government state employees are coming back to work, but still it is the hybrid model is here to stay and stay for a long time. So in the office sector, it's up and down, but in the horizontal situation. And then we have the up. And what is the up? As we commented, it is obviously the warehouses. Why? Because still e-commerce is booming. The sweet spot is 3,000 to 10,000 square feet. We saw the industrial sector here. As you can see, these are quite a nice size, but the landlords subdivide them. So in one of these, you can have 10 tenants or 12 or 8 tenants. And you go there and you say, I want a wall here and a wall there, and build me a bathroom here, and there you go. I will make a lease for 5 years, and here are my concessions that I am asking to the landlord. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, about concessions and how to negotiate commercial, okay? So now that we have a little bit of definition, what is residential, what's commercial, what sectors, main sectors are in commercial, let's go and dive into the rabbit hole deep and see the main differences. And here we go. We have 13, the magic 13. So we are going to go one by one. In residential, okay, this graph is self-explanatory. Number concept, residential and commercial, obviously I will explain the differences. The first and the most important, I think, and by the way, this doesn't have any rhyme and reason. This is whatever you want to say is more important than other, knock yourself out. But the first one that I consider very important is the disclosure. In residential, the seller has to disclose any and all material or fact that he knows, except when you have the alternative disclosures. Because in the line 39, as you probably know, the ones that are realtors, it says, and I quote, seller is not obliged to disclose any material or fact of which seller is aware that could adversely affect the buyer's use and or enjoyment of the property. That is the only exception to the rule. Otherwise, he or she, owner in residential, has to disclose, my cat died in the basement and I had the cat there for 1 month. He has to disclose that because it was a very bad odor. In commercial, guess what? The seller does not have the obligation to disclose anything. So we start to enter into the wild, wild west, my friends, in which everything goes. There are some rules, as we commented before in cooking, is mix the ingredients, put it in skillet, and everything goes. In residential is baking. I want you to put your cake at 700 or 500 degrees for 2 hours and see what happens to the cake. In commercial, you put it and you take it out and you put it in and you are going to have a very nice stew. So again, in commercial is like a hide and seek game in which the purchaser has to find out any and all faults of the property. And guess what? You start to negotiate each and all of them with the seller. Timing. In residential, as you probably know, 60 days or less. If it is cash, 15 days, and there you go. In commercial, even though you have cash, my friends, it can take 3-5 months in a cash deal. I have my experience. I have had transactions that lasted 11 months, 10 months. One of them at closing, everybody was laughing because you could say, you know what? We are having a baby. It's 9 months already since we met. And now we are going to call him Juan. So that is how long it takes in comparison to residential. Purchase programs. For the buyer in residential, as you probably know, you have the classic FHA 3.5 down, conventional 5% or more, the VA or the contract for deed. Contract for deed is negotiable. In commercial, you have SBA. The SBA, Small Business Administration, does not loan or gives money. The Small Business Administration guarantees the loan, therefore lowering the down payment of the purchaser, okay? Basically, and we're going to go in depth in the second installment of the seminar or webinars, there are basically 2 programs, the 7A and the 504, and we are going to dive in big time in August when we talk about purchasing. Now, let's talk about what is 510 or 510-15. Well, there is a very interesting thing about these numbers. You can have a loan of 5 years, amortizable, or with amortization of 5 years, and that's it. Thank you very much, bye-bye. Or you can have a 510, which means that you have a loan for 5 years and the interest rate is fixed After the 5th year, you go back to the bank because it's already 10, for 10 years, you sign for 10 years, you adjust the interest rate again for fixed at the time of the signature, and then you go another 5 years. 5 and 5 is 10, and that can be completely amortized. The same with 5, 10, 15. However, you can negotiate that you can have, whether it's in the 5, in the 10, or in the 15, a balloon payment. In other words, you were paying only interest. And what is the interest? Well, it's market rate, but you can also kind of negotiate the interest rates and the terms with your banker. Contract for deed, you probably know what is that, is seller financing, by which the seller requires a high down payment and the rest he will finance. In commercial, you can put this contract for deed as a second mortgage, and it is valid, okay? Parts of the transaction. In the banking or in the residential, very few. You have the buyer, the seller, the representatives or the agents. You have the title company, sometimes the inspector, the appraiser, the bank, tatan. That's all. Let me tell you about commercial, my friends. We have a lot. We have the inspector for the roof, the inspector for the AC, the structural engineer, which is going to inspect the structure, the foundation. Then you might have a geologist. You will have a surveyor. Talking about surveyor, I have a very nice story to tell you. It was 11-ish months into the transaction. We were going to close in 3 weeks. The surveyor comes, and guess what? The property that we were trying to buy was encroaching the neighbor. What does that mean? The property that we were buying was invading the property of the neighbor. And it was 3 feet by 200 yards. Oh, you know why? Because when the limits of the properties were made way back then, the surveyors in that time did not have GPS. So what they did was the limit of this property is from the third stone to the right of the big rock, second tree to the lake, or in the middle of the lake, a little to the right of the second tree, way back to the right, etc., etc. That's how they were putting the limits of the properties. Today, with the GPS, you find, and be very careful, especially when you go rural, of the limits of the properties, because most than none, you are going to be, the property that you are attempting to buy, most likely is going to be encroaching. So careful, 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 because guess what happened to us? The neighbor did not want to sell. And because the neighbor did not want to sell, guess what? After 11-ish months of dealing with the transaction and spending a lot of money, guess what? Cancel. So we did not make 1 penny on that one. So careful, careful, careful. Inspections, I think I kind of commented to you, we're going to have a lot of inspections, and one very, very interesting one. And please, if you're going to make commercial, please do not make your first transaction a gas station. And I want to tell you why. When you are buying commercial real estate, 99.999% of the time you are going to go to the bank. And the bank is going to require, guess what? Environmental inspection. And that is called technically phase 1, and God forbid, phase 2. Here we go. Phase 1 comes the inspector. Of course, you start to negotiate with the seller who is going to pay phase 1. Why? Because it's about $3,000 to $4,000, that baby. And I recommend that it's go 50-50, and the seller normally says yes. So the inspector comes and makes a little hole here and a little hole there, and starts to look at the neighbors and brings all the paperwork of the property since the 1900s and determines that, guess what? There is a dry cleaner 100 yards apart. The dry cleaners normally emit gases and they are contaminants and they go into the ground. So, and that happened to me when I was selling, when I was buying a school, about 50-ish yards was a dry cleaner. So we went to phase one and guess what? It got contaminated, the results. So the banker immediately jumped all over town and says, you know what? You are going to go to phase two. So then we went to the seller and the seller did not want to pay a penny. So because it was a very good deal, we said, okay, let's go. And it was $7,000, the inspection. And we crossed our fingers. We prayed to all the saints and all the gods in the universe. So the results were clean, or at least no further situation was to be done. Unfortunately, it was clean the second phase according to the parameters. Little 1 penny before the line, and we didn't have to make or to develop or to install what is called a mitigation system. In this particular case, the mitigation system would have cost $70,000, 70. Who is going to pay? The buyer. So be very careful when you are buying commercial for phase one and phase two. Again, do not buy gasoline station the first deal. It's a pain in the butt. Inspection cost, I kind of told you that in residential is hundreds, in commercial can be thousands. The down payment, as we already mentioned a little bit, in residential 3.5, 5%, contract for D 10, 15, but in commercial it goes 10 if it is small business administration, but the general rule is 15 to 25. And in what depends that? Well, it depends on some factors like, number one, the credit score of the buyer. If, very careful guys, pay attention. If the loan is non-recourse, excuse me, I want you to pay attention. I'm sorry, I apologize. If the loan is recourse, the banker is going to look for the credit score of the buyer. If the loan is non-recourse, then the credit of the buyer is secondary. What is a loan recourse and what is a loan non-recourse? Very simple. A loan non-recourse is a loan that is 1.25 million or more. Why? Because then is the property that is going to produce enough money. The bankers have the ratios. We're going to look at that when we are going in August. We're going to go deep into that hole and determine what is a good number for the banker to go non-recourse. Again, 1.25 million or more. Long terms, I already explained a little bit. The 5, 10, 15 with amortization total or with balloon. Letter of intent. Letter of intent in residential, I did 11 years of residential and I never, ever even mentioned letter of intent. What is that? However, in commercial, almost always you make a letter of intent. A letter of intent, my friends, is not a binding document. It's just a written statement of the intentions of the buyer, in which, of course, you ask for the sky, the moon, and the stars. And then the listing agent goes to the seller, reads it, laughs at you, comes back, and you start probably a 2-week negotiation. So after you agree and the seller agrees or listing agent agrees and all the parties are in agreement, then you proceed with the purchase agreement. Sometimes the letter of intent can take 3 weeks just to negotiate, 4 weeks just to negotiate. And then you ask for 45 days to agree in the purchase agreement, and then 120 days to make the accommodations and reacquisition of the place. And then if it is rent, you start to pay rent. How many months that passed? 4 months, and nothing happened really. Due diligence. In residential, guys, let's be fair. You do a very little due diligence, almost none. However, in commercial, I have to tell you, I have given a seminar of 4 hours just in this line, which is called the due diligence syndrome or situation. And just let me tell you very briefly, we can touch this topic in the next installment. You as a realtor have the obligation to do a physical inspection with the real estate eyes. You are not an inspector, you are not a geologist, but if it is a 60-unit multifamily, guess what? You have to inspect 60 units and so on and so forth. If it's a hotel of 200 rooms, you have to inspect all these 200 rooms. That's the physical. Then the fiscal, his name is logic, no? You have to see and learn how to read income tax declaration, fiscal, we're talking about. You ask for 5 years of financial statements to the seller, and you analyze that it is a healthy company and that it's, in such a state, a financial state that is worth the price that they are asking. And then financial. Financial is exactly the analysis and interpretation of financial statements. We are go very deep in this topic when we talk about purchase of a business, because not everything that brights or that shines is gold. And you have, as a realtor, in your due diligence, you have to compare the bank statements with the fiscal declaration. Very important. No, but you know what? I charge cash sometimes. Well, good luck. So you have to be very careful on that. In the financial also, you have to review each and all of the contracts that the property has. For instance, in multifamily, you have to check if the laundry room has the washer and dryer is owned or it has a contract. You have to see the contract of the furnace if it is rented. You have to see any and all contracts that the property has. And very, very important, and that happened to me, be aware, go to the police, go to the marshal, to the closest precinct, and say, you know what, I am a real estate, I am representing the buyer, I want to buy 123 Main Street, it's a multifamily building. Do we have a file? Oh yeah, they are good clients of us. Every weekend invite us to the party. So be careful, guys, be careful with police. Also, I would recommend you to go to the fire marshal to see if there has been fires in that property, and if there was a fire, how it was remedied. Very important, it has to be with permits, because normally people want to save $200-300 and they ask somebody that doesn't have a license to fix the hole. And when it's an inspection time, it happened to me. The inspection closed the business because guess what? It was a fire, they fixed it, they did not pull permits. We have to redo it again and it cost $10,000. So careful, careful, careful. Do the things right the first time and you are going to be better off than trying to save $200-300, guys. Believe me, take it from here. And then we have the intent. In residential, the intent is obviously to live. In commercial, you want a return on investment. Finally, rent is very seldom in residential. In commercial, is very, very often. You rent an office, you rent a liquor store, you rent a warehouse, you can rent a hotel. I am going to throw you a curveball. You can rent the building without having the property of the land. Oh, careful. Everything is everything goes in commercial. Remember, it's the wild, wild west. You put all the ingredients in the skillet and here you go. And then the last, not the least, is the commission. In residential, my friends, you go to the MLS or multiple listing service, and guess what? It is set in stone, 2.7, 2.5. When it is 3%, you jump all over the place. And guess what? That's it. In commercial, oh man, oh man, oh man, if I can tell you, you will be amazed. Let me give you two examples. Let's go to a warehouse and we represent the guy or the girl or the company that wants to rent a warehouse. The listing agent is going to tell you that the minimum is 3 years. You like the place, everything is fine. You make a letter of intent, you negotiate the rent, you tear apart 2 walls because you don't like the walls, and you make the office smaller and the windows green, etc., etc. Everybody happy, you negotiate the rent, and then comes the commission. Remember, it was, okay, let's go see more complicated. Let's say 5 years. Okay. In commercial, if you are going to rent, and we're going to see very deep, there are 5 or 6 different types of rent, okay? Let's say the easiest one, as an example, is called gross, which means you have the base rent and the CAM. What is the CAM? CAM, Common Area Maintenance. Is the money that the landlord pays for the taxes, the guy that comes to clean the outside windows, the elevators maintenance, etc., etc. So for the commission, you take the base rent, you annualize it, let's say very simple, $1,000 a month base rent times 12, it's 12,000. First year, 7%. Second year, 6%. Third year, 5, 4, and 3. You add all of those percentages, and guess what? That is your commission. But the beautiful thing about it is that you collect it in the moment or within 30 days of the lease signature. Wow. So you are collecting futures. If the tenant goes bankrupt in year 2, tough luck, you are already in Brazil spending the money, or you have already spent the money. But here goes the sweet pie when you are a good realtor in commercial. You put in the letter of intent that if and when the contract, the lease contract is renewed, guess what? You collect the commission again for another 5 years. So isn't that sweet, commercial? Another example is, for instance, offices. In offices, it is about $1 per square foot. And again, times how many square feet, the base rent, times 12, times 5, and that is your commission. In multifamily, you negotiate 4% of the purchase price, or 3 or 2, depending upon if it's a $20 million deal. Obviously, probably it's a 1.5%. But if it is 500, $1 million, you can ask for, and nobody's going to blink an eye. So that is the the nice thing about the commercial, all the commissions are negotiable. So with that, I am basically done. I am open to questions. I hope you like it. And you learned something that you did not know before. And maybe some of you want to become a cook. So thank you very much again. And I am open to questions. Fabio?
Yes, yes. So now this is the opportunity for everyone. I just wanted to thank everyone to join. If you have any questions, if you think of anything that is coming to your mind, just type it in the chat room, and and Luis can address those questions in these last few minutes. Also, while you type your questions, I just want to remind you that the Spanish version of this webinar is coming this coming Thursday at 2 p.m. And again, this is just the first one of 3 different topics. So we put it in a series. This one was supposed to be more for touching the basics of commercial real estate, and the next ones are going to be more focused on purchasing and leasing and renting, and thinking about other factors that are also important to take a look before you can buy real estate. And we're talking about, right, Luis, we're talking about, because most of our members here are like restaurant owners, or they have a restaurant or supermarket, or a salon, a beauty salon person. So all these type of businesses can rent or can buy their own property, or let's say sometimes they already have one, and they want to change it, right? So there's going to be coming up those webinars that are going to address those purchases and rent and lease more deeply. So with that,
yeah, let me just add to your statement. Absolutely, if you are in the restaurant business, there are a lot of options that you can approach the transaction. Whether you just go and lease the place and you put your restaurant, or if you have a more money, or your financial position is a little bit more strong or stronger, you want to buy the building and put your restaurant there, or also you can negotiate with the owner of the past business, if you are going to buy the business, to finance the business to you, and you just go and pay the rent and buy, or rent with option to buy the property, and contract for deed with the restaurant owner. So there are a lot of options. Remember, commercial guys and girls, the imagination is the limit.
Yeah, and here there are a couple of questions, Luis, and I can read those to you. The first one is it better to buy land and then build a commercial, place, or is it better to buy something already established?
This question is the $100,000 question, and let me tell you, number one, if you are going to buy land and you are going to build, number one, you have to be very, very, very well experienced in construction. For instance, I'm going to give you 2-3 examples. If you want today an aluminum rod, you're going to get it in 7 months. Prices of lumber increased 400% last year. It came down to 200% increase. Now it's 500% increase. And guess what? There is no lumber. So you are going to have not one, but a lot of headaches if you are going to build. In addition, with all due respect, you are not a builder. You don't have 10 years of experience, and you are not going to be able to buy the best prices for your materials. Even though you contract or hire a general contractor, is not the same as have a more, if you will, financial position, a better financial position, and go and buy the place and renew, replace, update, upgrade, that is a different animal, so to speak, than building from ground up. Just right now, obviously I cannot say names or places, but we are doing a kind of a big project. And just for entitlement, we have to spend $300,000. What is entitlement? Is the assurance of the government that yes, we can proceed with the project that we want to build. Are you willing to risk $300,000? And maybe the government says no. And then the headaches of the building materials, go knock yourself out. Or buy a building, or buy a warehouse, or buy a hotel, please no gas station, and renew, update and upgrade, and there you go. So that is my short answer to the situation. Obviously, it has to be a specific case, no?
Perfect, perfect. Also, we have another question here, Luis. And the question is, let me see. Let's see. Would it be smart to buy apartment complexes with the current market forecast?
Okay. The cap rates, or kind of the return on investment, has been going down, 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 and down, down, down. However, the prices have been going up, 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 but so are the rents. So it is like a hide and seek situation, no? And it depends upon what kind of multifamily are you talking about. In multifamily, the buildings are classified by or either stars or classes, A, B, C, and D. D as in doctor is like the one that is falling apart, and A is like a building in West End or in Edina. If you are going to go in that segment for class A, forget it. No way, Jose, you're going to make profit. The sweet spot will be a C plus or a B minus. That needs great deal of repair. So when you repair, you put new tenants with the rents that are today, and then you're going to have a great deal of return on investment, or you want to be technical, a nice cap rate.
All right. All right. Thank you, Luis. And I think we do have a couple more questions. Let's see. It says, what should we keep in mind if real estate slows down?
Well, this is a very interesting question, because if you want to look at it from a certain perspective, we are not creating land in this planet, no? So the only way that we are going is up. And because of the beautiful climate change, for instance, in Florida, there has been thousands and thousands of acres that cannot be sold, because guess what? The sea is invading them. So it is a very interesting situation in that side. On the other side, you know, there is money in the market. The multifamilies are hot, hot, hot. Warehouses are hot, hot, hot. But again, you know, it depends upon what kind of sector you are looking at. We talk about the assisted living. Man, assisted living is booming like crazy. Just to give you a piece of information, in the United States, every day, there are 20,000 more baby boomers. And because of this culture, a lot of these guys and girls, guess where are you going to go to live? In assisted living homes. So that is one sector that deserves a very interesting attention. I am sorry to tell you, but cemeteries is another booming. I am sorry to say, because of COVID, but man, that is a good business. because you sell by the square foot or by the cubic square or niche.
Yeah. Oh,
Don't go to hospitality now because the new variant BA12 is coming to town. I was reading that in Shanghai, in the last month, there was not one car sold because no people go out to the streets. So, man, nobody can predict those kind of situations. The war in Ukraine, the inflation, the formula for babies. I mean, but you have to be careful with your investment. Right now, in my personal opinion, is watch and see. Watch and see what's going to happen in the next 2, 3, 4 months. And then winter comes and the thing hopefully cools down and you save a lot of money. And if you are wise, you're going to make a good investment end of this year, next year. But you have to do your homework. Remember due diligence? You have to do big time homework, especially nowadays.
all right. All right. Thank you, Luis. And one more question here that probably you addressed a little bit, but let me see if you can focus it a little bit more. Is what kind of properties do you like to sell the most and why? And the other part of this is, do you prefer to represent the landlords or the tenants?
Well, very interesting question, because you remember in residential, normally, generally, the buyers buy with the heart. In commercial, the buyers buy with the pen. Everything that makes sense in numbers, they go for it. For instance, we in my group of Crosstown Commercial, we are a group of guys and girls. Please go to our website, by the way, so you can see who we are, what we do, and what we have. We have one of our investors lives in Chicago. And we have bought for this guy, group, probably 6, 7 properties. He has not seen one. He has not come to the Twin Cities. We send him pictures. We send him a report. We send him numbers. And there he goes. He says yes, or he says no. So that is how sometimes the cookie crumbles in the commercial. Why do I like? Well, I love warehouses because they are very easy. And I already gave you an example of commission. It's very nice, and you are buying futures. And it is like you take this wall out, you tear apart this, you make the office this way. I want this concession, and here you go. One interesting comment about this, I represented a guy that wanted a warehouse here in the Twin Cities, and he was buying tortillas from Chicago. The big truck came with the tortillas. He was going to put the tortillas in his warehouse, one truck full of tortillas. And then he was going to take 10 boxes to Target, 20 boxes to the Starbucks, 30 boxes to here, etc., etc., etc. Well, guess what? I learned that in order for the guy to operate, you have to go to the agriculture department and get a permit, which is wholesaler food handler. So you have to learn those little things that makes big difference. And the inspector comes, and the inspector sees the bathroom and the floors and the air conditioner and the filters, and then they issue the permit. So, you know, I learned those beautiful things. Another experience that I have is another warehouse that did not have a dock. Well, if you want the contract, lease contract for 5 years, Mr. Landlord, you build us a dock, tear apart this door, put a different door. If we want electric door, and you have a deal. Done. In 10 minutes, we make that deal, the dock deal. So I love warehouses because they are very easy. The offices, multifamilies, etc., man, takes forever because of what I told you. You have to inspect all of the units, all the inspectors in the world, etc., etc. And yes, represent the seller is easier, but I like more the buyer because I like to play the negotiation game. It's my turf. I like to negotiate.
Okay, perfect, Luis. Thank you very much. I think we are just over for a few minutes. Thank you for the participation, the Latino Chamber of Commerce. We are so appreciative of your participation, and be please in tune with the webinars that are coming up in August and November. We will, if you check our calendar at our website for the Latino Chamber of Commerce, you will see exactly what the hours and dates. And remember that we will have also a Spanish version of these webinars. The next one, for this one, the Spanish version will be this coming Thursday at 2 p.m. We appreciate your participation. Thank you, Luis, for all the information that you have provided. And thank you to NAREP for supporting our efforts here to bring some education on the commercial property to our members and friends. So for now, Luis, thank you so much. And everybody else, thank you very much.
You are very welcome, Fabio. I appreciate all your attentions that you have given us, and I appreciate all of you guys and girls that came today. And if you have any further questions or comments, here is my information, and also we can provide you with a copy of this webinar. Thank you very much.
Yep. So yes, and you're right, Luis. I will. I'm recording this webinar, so I will post it in the next few days. We also will send the copy of the presentation to the people that are participating. In the next few days, we'll share that information with you. For now, have a great day, have a great afternoon, and please join us in our next webinar. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.